Deep in the jungle, in the cold waters of the ocean, or even high up on a mountain, there is an instant that changes everything: the birth of a new life. Some arrive in the world after a 6-foot drop, others emerge in the silence of the sea, and some barely fit in the palm of a hand. Today you will discover the 15 most incredible animal births caught on camera, moments so surprising they seem like fantasy. 1. Horse, foal. In the vast animal kingdom, every birth holds a fascinating secret. Among them all, that of the horse holds a special place due to its speed and delicacy. The scene is brief, but impactful. The mare, after 11 long months of gestation, lies down on the ground and gives birth to a foal that within minutes begins to breathe on its own. The surprising thing is that, unlike many other species, it doesn't remain helpless for long. In fact, after only a few moments, the foal, still wet and trembling, begins to move its clumsy legs with an irrepressible instinct to stand up. And here lies the marvel. While human babies take more than a year to achieve this little horse stands up in less than 2 hours, driven by the need to stay with its mother and avoid predators. Furthermore, there is a curious detail that not many people know. When it is born, the foal already recognizes the mare's voice and smell. This immediate connection ensures that it does not confuse her with another herd and can follow her without getting lost. It is nature weaving an indestructible bond from the first breath. Moreover, the birth of a horse is not only a spectacle of strength and tenderness, but also a race against time. Every minute counts, because in the open plains, survival depends on speed. That is why the foal, still wobbly, tries to run within a few hours, achieving what would be an impossible feat for us. In summary, the birth of a horse is a reminder of the surprising evolutionary intelligence that shapes every species. And this first example opens the door to other equally extraordinary births, which reveal life's infinite creativity. 2. African elephant. After admiring the speed with which a foal stands up to face the world, the contrast arrives with one of Earth's most majestic giants, the African elephant. Here, nature plays with scale and resilience. The gestation of an elephant is the longest of all terrestrial mammals. About 22 months, almost 2 full years, waiting for a calf to be born, that upon arriving in the world, already weighs over 200 pounds, more than 100 kilos. The curious thing is the way this birth occurs. Unlike other animals, the calf does not descend gently. It literally falls to the ground from a considerable height, because the mother usually gives birth standing up. This initial impact is not an accident, but a vital shake-up. Contact with the earth stimulates the little one to open its lungs and breathe for the first time. Immediately afterward, the scene is filled with tenderness. The newborn, clumsy and heavy, desperately seeks its mother's trunk. This contact is not just affection, it is survival. The maternal trunk guides it, caresses it, and gives it security in an environment where every shadow can mean danger. Within a few minutes, with stumbles and falls, the little elephant manages to stand up, demonstrating that even the colossi have a fragile start. Another astonishing detail is the role of the herd. Not only the mother protects the newborn, the entire group becomes a living wall around it. Aunts, sisters, and grandmothers form a compact circle, as if understanding that the future of the family rests on that calf. This cooperation, rare in other species, is one of the reasons why elephants are symbols of wisdom and memory. Thus, from the nervous trot of the horse, we move to the slow awakening of the elephant, and both show us that life begins with a shared impulse, the urgent need to get up and move forward. 3. Giraffe. After contemplating the imposing arrival of the African elephant into the world, the story leads us to another giant, but one with an endless neck, the giraffe. In this case, birth becomes a true test of endurance from the very first second. The mother, like the elephant, usually gives birth standing up. However, there is an enormous difference. The calf not only falls, but it does so from a height of almost 6 feet, 2 meters. This initial plunge, which at first glance seems brutal, has an astonishing biological purpose. The impact against the ground acts as a natural alarm clock, forcing the little one to fill its lungs with air and start breathing forcefully. The fall that might frighten anyone is, in reality, the first push toward life. The extraordinary part comes next. In less than an hour, that baby giraffe that just received such an impact begins to wobble on its long legs, trying to get up. And although it stumbles as if walking on disproportionate stilts, its instinct is clear. It must get up soon to be able to follow its mother and protect itself from the predators lurking on the savannah. A curious detail is that, despite their apparent clumsiness, giraffe calves grow at an impressive speed. In just 1 year, they can double their height and reach up to 10 feet, 3 meters. This accelerated growth is vital for survival in an ecosystem where strength and size are decisive advantages. Thus, while horses are born ready to gallop and elephants awaken under the protection of an entire herd, the giraffe begins its life by literally falling, only to then stand up. 3 distinct beginnings, but all united by the same urgency. Adapting in a matter of minutes to a wild world that grants no respite. 4. Red kangaroo. After the monumental fall with which a giraffe's life begins, we now travel to a completely different setting, the arid landscapes of Australia, home to the red kangaroo. And here the surprise is huge, because the birth of this marsupial shatters all expectations. The red kangaroo Joey does not arrive in the world as a developed animal, but microscopic, the size of a kidney bean, almost transparent and hairless. It weighs less than a gram, and the most incredible thing is that despite its fragility, it already has enough strength and instinct to perform its first great feat, climbing up to its mother's pouch. This journey, which may seem impossible, is done blindly, guided by smell and touch. In a matter of minutes, that tiny being clings to the maternal fur and manages to enter the marsupium, a natural refuge that will function as an incubator for months. Inside there, protected from the scorching desert heat and predators, it will continue its development until it transforms into a recognizable small kangaroo. The fascinating thing is that the mother can harbor more than one Joey in different stages of growth. She can even produce 2 different types of milk at the same time, each adapted to the specific needs of each offspring. It's as if she has a built-in biological laboratory to ensure everyone survives. Furthermore, when it finally pokes its head out of the pouch, the young kangaroo has already traveled an extraordinary path. It has gone from being almost invisible to becoming a born jumper, capable of covering miles at high speed. Thus, after seeing horses, elephants, and giraffes facing the outside world from the first instant, the kangaroo shows us another strategy: to be born tiny, hidden, and protected, until it is ready to take its first leaps into the wild. 5. Dolphin. After witnessing how the tiny red kangaroo climbs to the maternal pouch to complete its development, we now immerse ourselves in a completely different setting. The ocean, where the birth of the dolphin is a true marvel of adaptation. Unlike terrestrial mammals, here the challenge is to prevent the calf from drowning prematurely. For this reason, nature has devised a surprising mechanism. Dolphin birth usually occurs tail first, not head first. This seemingly small detail is vital because it allows the newborn to remain attached to its mother for as long as possible without needing to breathe, until it is fully ready to swim to the surface. The moment the calf comes to light is electrifying. As soon as it leaves the womb, other members of the pod quickly approach to help it ascend to the surface. It is a cooperative ritual. The adults form a protective escort that gently pushes the neonate, ensuring it achieves its first gasp of air. That first breath marks the beginning of a life that will be inseparably linked to the water and the community. A curious fact is that dolphin mothers usually give birth to a single calf, and for the first few days, they barely separate from it. They watch it closely, nurse it underwater, and guide it in its first movements. The mother's milk is so rich in fat that it helps the little one quickly gain energy to face the effort of swimming almost immediately. In this way, while the kangaroo grows protected in the marsupium, the dolphin begins its existence in a relentless environment, where the cooperation of the group and the intelligence of the species become its first guarantees of survival. 6. Hammerhead shark. After seeing how the dolphin is born, surrounded by care and cooperation, we move to another inhabitant of the sea that follows very different rules: the hammerhead shark. If the birth of cetaceans is a communal ritual, that of sharks is a solitary and direct act, where survival depends solely on the newborn. Some of these births have been recorded in aquariums, allowing observation of a process that normally occurs in deep waters, away from human sight. The impressive thing is that unlike most fish, shark pups are not born defenseless. From the first moment, they emerge ready to swim, with a fiercely developed instinct that allows them to survive without parental help. The hammerhead shark, with its characteristic T-shaped head, usually has large litters, between 20 and 40 pups in a single birth. Each one measures about half a meter and swims on its own as soon as it leaves the maternal womb. That peculiar design of its head, which is already present from birth, gives them an immediate advantage: panoramic vision and a sensory capacity that helps them orient themselves and detect prey in the ocean currents. Unlike dolphins, here there is no protective pod or accompanying mother. The evolutionary strategy is different: to produce many individuals with high probabilities that at least some will survive. In nature, only a fraction of these pups will reach adulthood, but those who do become formidable predators. Thus, the ocean shows us two sides of life. On one hand, the affectionate care of the dolphins. On the other, the relentless independence of the hammerhead sharks. Both births reveal different paths that evolution has designed for the same objective: ensuring the continuity of the species in a marine world full of challenges. 7. Humpback whale. After observing the independent and almost immediate birth of the hammerhead shark, we stay in the depths of the ocean, but now facing one of nature's most majestic spectacles: the birth of the humpback whale. Here, the scale changes completely. The birth occurs in open waters, generally in warm regions where the mother has migrated after a journey of thousands of miles. After almost a year of gestation, the calf, already measuring about 13 feet, 4 meters, and weighing nearly a ton, emerges into the world in a moment charged with drama. As with dolphins, the calf needs to breathe immediately. Therefore, as soon as it is born, it begins an ascent to the surface. It is the race of its life, getting there in time to take its first gulp of air. The most amazing thing is that it does not do it alone. The mother, and sometimes even other companions known as ant whales, help to gently push it upward. This initial cooperation ensures that the newborn breaks the surface and, with a powerful blow, announces its arrival to the world. That initial blowhole spout, visible from meters away, symbolizes the start of an existence that will unfold among infinite seas. Furthermore, the mother dedicates all her effort to protecting and feeding the calf. Her milk, extremely rich in fat, allows the calf to gain up to 100 pounds, 45 kilos, per day during the first weeks. In that brief period, it goes from being a vulnerable newborn to becoming an increasingly strong swimmer, capable of following its impressive mother's pace. 8. Sea turtle. After the colossal birth of the humpback whale, which showed us the tenderness of the open waters, the story now moves to the hot sand of tropical beaches. There, the arrival of sea turtles into the world is not a traditional birth, but a massive hatching that transforms the night into a spectacle of life in motion. The mother turtle, weeks earlier, digs a deep nest in the sand and deposits up to 100 eggs. Then, she disappears into the sea, leaving nature to complete the miracle. After approximately 2 months of incubation, the small turtles, still fragile with soft shells, break the shell almost simultaneously. This synchronized phenomenon is not accidental. The union of dozens of hatchlings digging at the same time increases the chances of all of them reaching the surface. The most fascinating moment comes right after. In total darkness, the hatchlings orient their march toward the reflection of the moon on the water. Guided by that natural light, they advance with determination towards the sea, facing the greatest risks of their lives within minutes. Birds, crabs, and other predators lurk, and only a minimal fraction of the dozens of turtles will manage to reach the waves. However, this spectacle of massive survival has a clear biological purpose: betting on quantity. The more hatchlings are born at the same time, the greater the possibilities that some will survive and return, decades later, to the same beach to repeat the cycle. 9. Mountain goat. After contemplating the crowded dash of the turtles towards the sea, the journey takes us to a radically different setting: the dizzying heights of the mountains, where the mountain goat stars in one of the riskiest births in the animal kingdom. Unlike other species that seek refuge or safe plains, mountain goats choose impossible cliffs, rocky walls, and narrow ledges to bring their young into the world. They do so for a strategic reason. The extreme height acts as a natural shield against terrestrial predators. However, this choice turns the delivery into a challenge fraught with tension. The moment of birth is brief, but the incredible thing happens afterward. Just seconds after arriving in the world, the kid awkwardly gets up, still wet and trembling, but with an instinct that pushes it to follow its mother. And it succeeds with astonishing speed. While other animals need hours or days to walk, mountain goat kids stand up almost immediately and begin to climb the steepest slopes as if they had been born with climbing boots. A fascinating detail is the structure of their hooves. They are covered by a rough layer that acts as a natural suction cup, which allows them to adhere to surfaces that seem impossible. This biological design turns the newborns into true tightrope walkers from day one. The mother, for her part, grants no respite. As soon as she gives birth, she moves among the rocks and forces the kid to follow her. This behavior, which might seem harsh, is vital for the little one to develop strength and coordination in the first hours of life. 10. Domestic dog. After witnessing the bravery of the mountain goat giving birth on impossible cliffs, we descend from the heights to a much closer environment. The home, where the birth of the domestic dog reveals tenderness in its purest form. A female dog's gestation lasts about 2 months, and when the time comes, she usually looks for a quiet, warm, and protected corner to give birth. There, in silence, she begins to bring each puppy into the world, one after another. The surprising thing is the delicacy with which the mother acts immediately. With her tongue, she carefully cleans each newborn, removing remnants of amniotic fluid and stimulating its breathing. This instinctive gesture replaces a doctor's hands. It is the first caress and, at the same time, the first vital aid. Within minutes, the little ones, still blind and deaf, begin to desperately seek the warmth of the maternal body. Guided by smell, they cling to the teats to feed. The milk they receive not only nourishes them, but also protects them. It contains essential antibodies that strengthen their defenses in those vulnerable days. A curious fact is that, despite being born helpless, puppies emit small sounds that the mother immediately recognizes. Each whimper has a distinct nuance, and the dog is able to distinguish when a puppy is comfortable, when it is hungry, or when it needs help. This early communication reinforces an emotional bond so strong that even humans can perceive it when observing the scene. 11. Domestic cat. After the tenderness awakened by the birth of dog puppies, we enter an equally intimate setting, but one with a quieter and more delicate atmosphere: the delivery of the domestic cat. Here, every detail reveals fragility and, at the same time, nature's surprising strategy. A female cat's gestation lasts about 2 months, and when the time comes, she seeks a warm, secluded hiding place. It can be a box, a corner under the bed, or any place where she feels safe. There, with an ancestral instinct, she gives birth to her kittens, who weigh only a few grams at birth, with their eyes closed and ears sealed. They arrive in the world blind, deaf, and helpless, totally dependent on maternal warmth and protection. The mother's first action is to clean them with her tongue. This gesture, besides stimulating circulation and breathing, impregnates the young with her characteristic scent. That scent will be the compass that guides them in the absolute darkness towards the warmth of her belly and the mammary glands. And although they cannot see or hear, a surprising instinct pushes them to slowly crawl until they find food. A curious fact is that kittens are born with such a low body temperature that without the mother, they would not survive even a few hours. That is why the cat stays glued to them almost all the time during the first few days, becoming their source of heat, food, and security. Furthermore, she emits gentle purrs that convey calm, and which, according to studies, function as a kind of therapeutic vibration for her kittens. 12. Python snake. After the silent intimacy of the kitten's birth, the narration leads us to a radically different setting, where mystery and reptilian strength dominate: the birth of the python snake. Here, life does not begin with a delivery as such, but with a patient struggle inside an eggshell. The python, after weeks of vigilant incubation, lays its clutch in humid and warm places. Unlike many reptiles that abandon their eggs, the mother python remains coiled around them, protecting them with her own body. This gesture of dedication, rare among snakes, ensures that the temperature is constant until the moment of hatching arrives. The astonishing thing happens inside the egg. The developing young has a unique tool, the so-called egg tooth, a small sharp protrusion located on its snout. With it, it gradually tears the calcareous membrane until it opens a hole. This process can take several hours, even a whole day, and requires an enormous amount of energy. But it is a necessary test of endurance. Only the strongest individuals manage to complete the task. When they finally break the shell, the small pythons appear already fully formed, with their bodies covered in scales and ready to slither. They do not depend on additional maternal care. From the first instant, they are miniature hunters, capable of moving independently and feeding themselves after absorbing the last remnants of the yolk sac. A fascinating detail is that shortly after hatching, they shed their skin for the first time, marking the beginning of a life cycle they will repeat several times throughout their existence. 13. Emperor penguin. After the solitary struggle of the python to break its shell, we travel to one of the most inhospitable places on the planet, Antarctica. There, the birth of the emperor penguin is a story of resilience and parental care that defies the most extreme cold. The reproduction of this species has a unique trait. While the mother, exhausted after laying the egg, returns to the ocean to feed, the father assumes the responsibility of incubating it. For more than 2 months, he remains motionless, with the egg carefully guarded between his feet and covered by a fold of skin called a brood pouch. During that time, he endures temperatures that drop below -40 degrees Fahrenheit, -40 degrees Celsius, without eating and depending only on the reserves accumulated in his body. The moment of birth arrives after weeks of waiting. The chick, trapped inside the shell, begins to peck at the shell with a special tooth on its beak. Finally, it manages to open a crack and appears in the world, encountering an icy and hostile landscape. However, it is not alone. The father's body immediately shelters it, keeping it close to his body heat. A fascinating detail is that even before the mother returns, the father can temporarily feed the chick with a special secretion produced in his throat. This substance, similar to an improvised milk, keeps the newborn alive during its critical first days. When the mother finally returns from the sea with a full stomach of food, the handover begins. She nourishes the little one, while the father regains strength in the ocean. 14. Hippopotamus. After the freezing resilience of the emperor penguin in Antarctica, the journey leads us to a warm and swampy setting, the African rivers and lagoons, where the hippopotamus stars in a birth as peculiar as it is risky. Here, life begins underwater. Female hippos usually give birth submerged, a surprising detail for a mammal of such size. The calf, which can weigh up to 110 pounds, 50 kilos, emerges directly into the aquatic world and must react immediately. The first thing it does, instinctively, is to swim to the surface to take its first breath of air. This vital and urgent gesture demonstrates how nature programs survival from the beginning in an environment where breathing is not so simple. The mother remains attentive every instant. She swims alongside her calf, gently pushes it upward if necessary, and protects it from any threat. During the first few weeks, the little one does not stray too far, alternating between the water and resting on the mother's back. In fact, one of the most tender spectacles is seeing how newborn hippos lie on top of their mothers as if they were living islands. A curious fact is that hippos suckle both on land and underwater. The calf, with its ability to close its nostrils and ears, can nurse even submerged, without risk of drowning. This unique adaptation ensures that it can feed and grow regardless of the immediate environment. In a very short time, the calf learns to dive and stay underwater for several minutes, acquiring the skills it will need for adult life. 15. Giant panda. After the amphibious birth of the hippopotamus, we move to the bamboo forests of China, where the giant panda stars in one of the most contrasting births in the animal kingdom. Despite the mother's enormous size, the cubs arrive in the world tiny and fragile, offering a spectacle of unexpected tenderness. The female panda can weigh over 220 pounds, 100 kilograms, but her cub at birth barely reaches 100 grams, 3.5 ounces, meaning its size is almost 1,000 times smaller than the mother's. This extreme contrast is one of the greatest biological enigmas of mammals. The newborn is pink, virtually hairless, with closed eyes, and so helpless that it would not survive without the constant care of its parent. The mother panda, normally calm and solitary, then transforms into a being of absolute dedication. She holds the little one with her front paws and cradles it against her chest, adjusting every movement so as not to hurt it with her colossal weight. This gesture of protection is so moving that when recorded in zoos or reserves, it has become one of the most admired scenes of animal motherhood. A curious detail is that, due to the fragility of the cubs, often only one of them manages to survive when twins are born. The mother concentrates her care on the strongest, a harsh but effective strategy in terms of survival. Furthermore, during the first months, she barely leaves the den, dedicating herself completely to keeping the little one warm and fed. Thus, after births in the water, on the ice, or on impossible cliffs, the giant panda reminds us that nature also writes stories of extreme delicacy. A birth where the contrast between immensity and fragility becomes a symbol of tenderness and resilience.